Last year, I helped over 30 families buy and sell real estate in Winston-Salem and the surrounding area. And I was really proud of that result because, there was almost 50% of the agents in the country that sold 0 or 1 home on all of 2024. And the average real estate agent sells about 4 to 6 houses a year. So that number, put me again in the top 2% or so of all agents throughout Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and High Point. I was proud of that, but really looking back on the results from this year and talking to some clients, I found kind of 3 key areas where I'm going to focus and where you could take a look at if you're thinking about buying real estate in this coming year, 2025, that I really think will help you get the best results possible. And when I give those numbers, it's not because I'm bragging. Remember, when I'm doing this, I'm applying for a job to be your real estate agent. And if that's the case, my contact information is on the screen and in the description below. But starting off with the first insider tip to buy real estate in Winston-Salem in 2025 is going to be to look for off-market homes. I really think this is going to be a big one this year, especially with, if you've seen any of the market update videos, we have low inventory here. We've had for the last few years. It's not going to change in 2025. There's still going to be a lot of pressure on inventory. And I know if I was a client, I would be like, well, what are you doing to help me find homes? I can look on Zillow. I can get the listings from the MLS. What exactly are you doing as an agent to help me look for homes as well? And I'm going to get to that in just a second. But first, the way that you could kind of do that is a couple different areas. I guess if you look on Zillow for sale by owners, those aren't off market because they are marketed to the general public. I'm talking about homes that are not marketed to the general public. So it's not a violation of NAR's clear cooperation policy. Homes that aren't marketed to the general public. I had a client a few months ago. His kids moved here from California. They bought a house in Clemens. They decided they want to move here too. They want to be in the neighborhood as close as they can. They would take it on the same street if they could. Well, as fate would have it, they were talking to one of the neighbors that the kids just moved into and said, hey, we're looking to buy a house in the neighborhood. If you know anybody looking to sell, and they were like, well, we're going to be selling at the beginning of 2025, and they struck up a deal, and there you go. So it really could be just as simple as talking to the neighbors or different people. So that's possibly how you could look for off-market deals. But what I'm going to be doing as an agent for clients that work with me in 2025, I'm really going to expand this part of my business. Last year in 2024, off-market deals were about 15 or 20% of my business. My goal this year is to at least double that and hopefully more. Here's how I'm going to do it. It's going to be through a lot of different advertising. We're going to be doing, if I have a client that is looking for, Arbor Run in Louisville for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. We will market towards those specific houses. I can find those that are not on the market. We're going to approach them with an offer. Hey, I have a client looking in this neighborhood. If you're thinking about selling, let me know. Same could be said if it's a larger geographic area. I want to live in Kernersville in the southern part in this school district. We're going to do some mailing campaigns, both in narrow in scope, really honed in, and then just a larger geographic piece. But also we're going to run video ads here on YouTube that we can geographically targets. But another big one I'm going to start doing this year is really starting to network with more real estate agents and attorneys. Another part of that being in the top 2 or 3% of agents, you get asked to come to these events and conferences and things like that in the local area. So my goal for this year is to uncover more opportunities for my buyer clients. When I'm talking to agents or probate or divorce attorneys and things like that, say, hey, I have a client looking for this. Can I shoot you a note? And just to try to get some of that networking done. I think those will help me at least double the off-market homes that I can find for clients in 2025. Now, I should say I don't want to overpromise on this for sure, because I'm not saying if you work with me, I'll find you an off-market deal. That I don't want to exactly say that. Remember last year in 2024, it was about 15 or 20% of my business. So I'm looking to at least double that this year. But I want you to know that if we're working together, that I'm working hard other than just kind of sending you listings off the MLS and leaving it up to you to find the house. We're out there prospecting for them every single day. All right, next insider tip is success leaves clues. Make sure you look for them. This is really important since the NAR settlement in the summer of last year, where, commissions aren't public anymore. And theoretically, there could be scenarios where you have to pay your commission for your realtor out of your own pocket, where maybe you thought that wasn't the case prior to that. It's always been important who you work with. I have horror story after horror story going back years, but I'm not going to bore you with those. But now more than ever, when, in one of the biggest transactions of your life, it's important to know who you're working with. So as your vetting agent, hopefully you've watched them for hours and hours on YouTube. And hopefully they've done hundreds of videos and given you their take on the market and all those things like that. But if not, here's what you can do if you're considering an agent. The most common places for client reviews are going to be on Google and Zillow. Most of my more recent reviews are on Google, and most of my older ones will be on Zillow, but those are the two #1 places to look at reviews if you're considering an agent. See what the people say about them that have worked with them. But here's one that I really love Zillow for, is look at an agent's Zillow profile. Just simply Google their name, Zillow profile. So Jeff Valentino, Zillow profile, take a look. Here's what I like about that, and here's what's important. Real estate agents are great at posting on social media of how busy they are and all this they have going on, and they just help this and help that. I get a kick out of it all the time because of the agents that are posting all the time, and you go look up their production, and it's not as much as you would be led to believe by what they post on social media. But you as a client, you can go look on Zillow. It pulls directly from the MLS. You can see their last 12 month sales. So if you take a look at mine, the two most important things are going to be on here are going to be, one, the reviews, what clients are saying about them, and two, in my opinion, is their last 12 month sales. Now on mine, you see it says 28. At the beginning of this video, I told you I helped over 30 people buy and sell real estate in the last year in the Winston-Salem area. So that's where those off-market deals that I told you about came from. That represented an initial about 20% or so business extra that you won't see on Zillow because they were all off-market. But again, the main thing is really see what they've done in the last 12 months. And to me, that's more important than, 10 years of experience, or I've been doing this 20 years. That's great. But really, you need to know on what have you done for me lately, right? That's the most important thing. And it just stands to reason that if somebody's done something, 200 times, they probably are a little bit better at it than somebody that's done something for, 4 or 5 times. Last point on this, on my Zillow profile right now, you see it says 126 sales. That's just since I've been in North Carolina, so that's just over the last 5 years. Remember, I sold real estate for an additional 5 years in Chicagoland before I moved here, but those licenses aren't connected. Anyway, that's why I see that. So those are two great places to start out, but then really have some questions if you're talking to some of these agents. I just helped a client close a house, and they said I was the 3rd agent that they talked to. They were really big on due diligence, and they were really great about asking really specific questions. And it's not the how long have you been in real estate. It's not even the how many houses have you sold. Tell me about your last 3 transactions. How much were you able to get a discount for your clients? Or were you able to negotiate any credits or price reductions? And then asking for really specifics. If that can't be done right off the top of their head or with just a quick reference to what those last 3 sales were, that should be a big red flag. But another one I would ask, since I know that almost 90% of real estate agents have 0 marketing or negotiating training, what type of marketing or negotiating training do you have or have you taken? This is a large part of my business. I have one of the top real estate coaches in the country that I've been coaching with for years. But then also on my own, marketing and negotiating training and education have always been important in my real estate career. So that's something they should really be able to answer super quick. If you take those steps, and again, if you've watched them on YouTube or something like that for a really long time, you should have a clear picture. You should be able to understand what they think about the market and all those things like that. But really, you should be able to go down one level deeper to really vet these folks that you're thinking about entrusting with such a big transaction. The next insider tip I want to give you about buying real estate in Winston-Salem is understanding reduces stress. And this is important in a few different areas. It's understanding the market and the current conditions. It's understanding the inventory and the current levels. But then it's also understanding just the process of buying a house itself, because it's different in North Carolina. So understanding the market, this is huge. I mean, when I'm recording this in January 2025, we're in the middle of deal season. In spring of 2025, it's not going to be that same way. So understanding what the market is like right now is going to help reduce stress, because you're going to know in January, our average days on market right now are close to 20. Where if it's in a really hot market in the spring, it might be 6 or 7. So your decision-making process, depending on what the market is doing, is going to be very, very different. If you watched a couple of videos back, I was telling you about some deals we got for clients where we were able to go look at a house, think about it overnight, came back for a second showing a couple days later. We had time to do that because of the state of the market. That may not always be the case. So knowing where the market is at is going to be really important. Then knowing the inventory and your really specific criteria, right? If we know listings tend to really increase next month and you just aren't seeing anything that you like, maybe we put your search off for a couple of weeks to really start to see when more homes come on the market. Or if we know that your criteria is you have to be within 30 minutes of work, or you have to be in this certain school district, then you can just really narrow down your search. Sometimes people think a wider net is better when in reality, it's sometimes taking a narrow focus is better, because then you can move quickly when the right thing does come into your target range. And the last thing about that is understanding the process. That's understanding the purchase process, especially important in North Carolina, one of the few caveat emptor or buyer beware states in the country. Looking for homes while, and weeding through them is probably a little bit stressful because you're doing that every single day. I can tell you that, finding the house is the simple part of the transaction. It's getting from the contract to the close is the much more detailed and what can be the much more stressful part of a real estate transaction. On my real estate website, we have a really simplified version of that process there that takes you through all of the steps just so you have a basic understanding. So if you go to govalentino.com, under the buyers tab, you see there's a little click here for the home buying process. That will give you a great little outline. But when we talk, especially on our first time, we're going to go through that in much more detail so you understand, again, the process. You know what the steps are going to be. Okay, we got our offer accepted. Now we got to deliver the money. Okay, we did that. Now we got to set up inspection. So you're going to understand all that because that's when, one, it moves much quicker, right? Because now we're under a time constraint for our due diligence or our closing time frame. But two, it's where, inspection issues can come up. A lender hiccup can come up. All these little things that really can make the process stressful comes up from the contract to close portion. So when you get a good idea by looking on the website and understanding those steps, but then also when we are having our consultation, we go over them in more detail. So I can answer any specific questions, but you'll understand it in more detail. But then as we're in the process, I'll be reminding you as we're going along, right? Here's the step we're at, here's what's coming up next. So that way you just are totally at peace with what's going on right now, but also what's coming up next. I found it just really takes the stress off people a lot. And if you're thinking about buying or selling real estate in Winston-Salem or surrounding area, I'd love to be a resource for you. You can reach out to me directly at jeff@govalentino.com. Thanks.